Every bottle of Scotch whiskey ever legally sold falls into one of exactly 5 categories. 5. Yet most drinkers cannot name a single one, and the word single on the label almost certainly doesn't mean what you think it does. From the regulations that define Scotch to the regions, stills, and casks that shape every style on the shelf, here's what's actually in your glass. To qualify as Scotch whiskey, the law sets out 6 strict requirements. First, every drop must be distilled and matured entirely within Scotland. The process begins with water and malted barley, but for grain whiskey, other whole cereals such as wheat, corn, or rye are allowed. Distillation is capped at 94.8% alcohol by volume, a limit designed to preserve the distinctive flavors of the grain. Maturation must take place in oak casks, each holding no more than 700 liters, and the whiskey must age for a minimum of 3 full years on Scottish soil. When it comes time to bottle, Scotch must be at least 40% alcohol by volume, never less. The only permitted additions before bottling are water for dilution and caramel coloring, labeled as E150A, which may be used to standardize color, but not to alter flavor. No other additives, flavorings, or sweeteners are allowed. Every bottle falls into one of 5 legal categories: single malt, single grain, blended malt, blended grain, or blended Scotch whiskey. These categories are not just marketing terms, they are defined by law, and each comes with its own precise production rules. This legal framework, set out in the Scotch Whisky Regulations of 2009 and enforced today, ensures that what's in your glass meets a global standard for authenticity and quality. Misunderstandings about Scotch whiskey terms are everywhere, but clearing them up early makes the rest of the story much clearer. First, single malt does not mean a whiskey comes from a single barrel or a single batch. It means the whiskey is made entirely from malted barley, water, and yeast at one distillery, usually blended from many casks to create a consistent house style. Single grain is not a whiskey made from just one type of grain. Instead, it refers to a whiskey made at a single distillery, which can include any mix of whole grains, wheat, corn, rye, or barley, distilled in a continuous column still for a lighter, more neutral spirit. Another common confusion: blended Scotch is not a catch-all for inferior whiskey. It means a precise combination of single malt and single grain whiskeys, carefully selected by master blenders to achieve a balanced, approachable flavor. Blended Scotch dominates global sales, with brands like Johnnie Walker and Chivas Regal built on this tradition. The islands are often treated as a separate region, but legally they are not recognized as such. Distilleries on Skye, Orkney, Jura, Arran, and Mull each have their own style, but the term islands is a convenient grouping, not a regulated category. Finally, peat levels are measured in parts per million in the malted barley, but a high number does not always guarantee a smoky-tasting whiskey. Distillation, maturation, and blending all influence the final aroma and taste. These clarifications help prevent the most common mix-ups, making it easier to understand what's actually in the glass as the documentary moves deeper into production and regional differences. Single malt Scotch begins with a simple recipe: malted barley, water, and yeast, distilled entirely at one Scottish distillery in traditional copper pot stills. These stills operate in batches, not continuously, and their shape has a direct impact on the whiskey's final character. Tall, narrow-necked stills, as described by whiskey writer Helen Arthur, encourage more reflux, Vapor rises, condenses, and falls back, resulting in a lighter, fruitier spirit. Short, squat stills, on the other hand, allow heavier compounds to pass through, producing a richer, oilier whiskey with more weight on the palate. The choice of whether to dry the malted barley over peat smoke or clean air is another defining decision. Peat, an ancient fuel cut from Scottish bogs, infuses the drying barley with phenolic compounds measured in parts per million, or ppm. According to distillation analyst J.D. Hill, a malt dried with little or no peat, typically under 5 ppm, yields a spirit that is almost entirely free of smoky aroma. This is the hallmark of Speyside, Scotland's most densely populated whiskey region, where distilleries like Glenfiddich, Macallan, Glenlivet, and Aberlour produce whiskies known for their honeyed sweetness, orchard fruit, and subtle sherry cask influence. Peat is rarely used, and the result is a gentle, approachable style. Islay, by contrast, is defined by its peat. Here, malts regularly reach 30 to 50 ppm, and in some cases, such as Ardbeg or Laphroaig, even higher. The smoky, medicinal, and maritime flavors, iodine, seaweed, tar, come directly from peat smoke absorbed during kilning. Islay's core distilleries, including Lagavulin and Bowmore, each calibrate their peat levels to create their own signature, but all share a bold, unmistakable intensity. This contrast between the light, fruit-driven Speyside malts and the peated, briny Islay style demonstrates how a few production choices, still shape and peat use, can swing Scotch from delicate to dramatic extremes. The Highlands stretch from the far north to Perthshire and the western coast, forming Scotland's largest whiskey region. Here, distilleries like Glenmorangie, Dalmore, and Oban produce a wide spectrum. Floral and citrus notes in the north and east, richer and sometimes lightly smoky or briny malts along the coasts. Peat is used with restraint, and maturation varies between ex-bourbon and sherry casks, with some cask-strength bottlings that highlight the spirit's robust character. South of the Highlands, the lowlands are defined by their gentle, approachable style. Single malt distilleries such as Auchentoshan, Glenkinchie, and Bladnoch favor triple distillation, running the spirit through 3 pot stills for a smoother, lighter whiskey with floral and citrus flavors and almost no peat. The region's mild climate and fertile plains help shape this softer profile, making lowland malts a common entry point for those new to Scotch. Campbelltown, once home to over 30 distilleries, now counts just 3: Springbank, Glen Scotia, and Glengyle. Its whiskies are known for a briny, slightly oily texture, moderate peat, and savory notes layered with dried fruit and toffee. Springbank's mixed pot still methods and cask experimentation keep the region's independent spirit alive, even as its numbers have dwindled. The islands, Orkney, Skye, Jura, Arran, Mull, are not officially recognized as a region, but the term persists. Each island offers a distinct style: Highland Park's heather honey peat, Talisker's peppery smoke, and a range from light to robust malts elsewhere. Maritime influence unites them, but the island's label remains unofficial, reflecting tradition more than regulation. Blended Scotch whiskey is the style most people encounter first, and it remains the backbone of the Scotch industry. Blends are created by marrying single malt whiskey with single grain whiskey, each made at separate distilleries. Grain whiskey, which can include wheat, corn, or rye, is distilled in large, continuous column stills, also called coffee stills, that produce a lighter, more neutral spirit compared to the batch-distilled, flavor-rich single malts. This efficiency allows grain whiskey to be made in greater volumes and at lower cost. In a typical blend, grain whiskey makes up about 60 to 80% of the mix, providing smoothness and approachability, while single malts add complexity and depth. Master blenders like Maggie Harrison at Johnnie Walker taste dozens of trial blends daily, fine-tuning the balance of sweetness, smoke, and spice to maintain a consistent house style year after year. Brands such as Johnnie Walker, Chivas Regal, and Dewar's rely on this process, and together, blended Scotch accounts for nearly 60% of all Scotch whiskey sold worldwide. The combination of scale, affordability, and reliable flavor makes blends the commercial heart of Scotch, and the reason they dominate the shelves from Glasgow to Guangzhou. Cask finishing is the art of giving matured Scotch whiskey a final twist by transferring it to a different type of oak cask for months or years before bottling. This secondary wood treatment is responsible for many of the flavors and label terms that set one bottle apart from another. Ex-bourbon casks, made from American oak, are the most common starting point, lending vanilla, coconut, and honey notes to the spirit. When whiskey is finished in sherry casks, especially those that once held Oloroso or Pedro Jimenez, expect dried fruit, spice, and rich chocolate undertones. Port casks contribute berry sweetness and a ruby glow, while sauternes and other wine casks add honeyed fruit, apricot, and a touch of acidity. Rum cask finishes, increasingly popular, bring tropical fruit, molasses, and gentle spice. The size of the finishing cask matters. Smaller barrels, such as 200-liter quarter casks, create bolder flavors in less time by maximizing wood contact, while larger casks over 500 liters yield a slower, subtler integration. On a Scotch label, cask type and finish are your best clues to the whiskey's secondary flavors. Think of them as the editor's final word on the spirit's character. Scotch whiskey remains one of the world's most tightly regulated spirits, defined by law, shaped by region, and revealed in every glass. As global demand rises and new cask finishes emerge, understanding these distinctions isn't just tradition, it's essential for anyone who values what they drink. Thanks for watching.